From garage sales to thrift store aisles, we hunt for treasures, stacking them in piles. Hustling hard, making deals all day, flipping finds, turning profit our way. Pure Hustle Podcast guides our quest, learning tricks to be the best. On eBay we make our name, reselling dreams, winning the game. Pure Hustle Podcast guides our quest, learning tricks to be the best. On eBay we make our name, reselling dreams, winning the game.
Welcome to Pure Hustle Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're here for another Monday live mini-sode.
That's right. We are live, and a lot of times when we go live, we have like a specific topic that we're talking about. We've got things that, maybe are going on in the reselling world, or what's, it could be anything. But today we decided let's have a kind of an Ask Me Anything reselling related wise, maybe some questions and answers, some just more interaction with our audience, those who are faithfully listening to Pure Hustle Podcast and maybe want to have some of their questions answered now. Maybe you're not already a member of our Discord, so you don't get those opportunities to ask those questions. So here's your chance to do that. And while we're kind of waiting for some questions, Orlando, we just finished recording our Wednesday episode that's going to be going up, and I mentioned on that because it just hit the news. We were talking about some baseball stories, some interesting baseball stories, so check in on Wednesday, guys. It's a good one. But a famous baseball player, Pete Rose, passed away, and so I was kind of interested on your thoughts. What has been your experience when those types of things happen and resellers start buying and flipping those things? Like, how do people react to that who maybe aren't resellers? What are your thoughts on that on an ethical standpoint? Where are you at on that?
All right, before I answer that, hey, just want to say shout out to Allison Silverline. What's going on? Bailey Banks, how are you? Nightshade Jelly, how are you? And many others that are watching us live. And so my question to you is, do you want to keep people on the live? Because this question always gets controversial, but everything I say is because this is business. Yeah, somebody said, reminds me of your Kobe episode. Here's the reality. The best time to sell something that is related to somebody that has died is the first 24 hours. So my recommendation is anybody that has anything, and this is Pete Rose that just passed away at the age of 83. If you have anything that's Pete Rose, list it now. List it now. Take a look at what recent sold, because there's probably a bunch of solds right now that have sold because this is the best time. And listen, you might say, oh, you're exploiting, you're turning a situation that is sad. You're trying to make it into business opportunity. The reality is that a lot of people want to feel closer to those individuals that they highly esteem, that were heroes in their lives. And so I always recommend that, hey, it's okay, because people want those items. So I'm looking right now. I just typed in Pete Rose for most recent ended recently. And so there's some baseball cards there's a lot of baseball cards that are selling right now. Baseballs are selling right now. All September 30th, all today. More baseballs, more baseball. Now the baseball cards aren't going for a lot of money unless they are graded, right? There's like $1.25. But then there's some for like $40-$50.
Well, and what this makes me kind of think of is, we've talked about like automated pricing on eBay, because you can kind of do that on Amazon. You can set some boundaries if you're selling on Amazon. But we don't have time to babysit all of our items, right? Like there's a lot of times where it's like, wait a minute, why is all of my, Bulls stuff selling, or why is all of my Charger stuff selling? And then you realize like, oh, something just happened and I kind of missed the boat on that because I didn't up my prices in time. And so somebody else is going to, do eBay to eBay arbitrage, or they were able to score it at a good price. The demand was really high, but the prices weren't meeting that demand at that moment. So it would be kind of nice if you had that functionality where you can kind of set some parameters, and if all of a sudden the interest in an item and demand peaks, that your item's going to float, and maybe you set like a hard bottom. I mean, you do this when you purchase stocks, right? You set stops and limits, and so you kind of know like, hey, if it gets down to this point, like, hey, I'm not going to sell this item below $20 no matter what the market's doing. But you can kind of have it on like a floating price where if something were to happen and all of a sudden there's a huge demand for this and these are selling for $200, my price that's currently set at 40 is going to increase to that. That would be that'd be really helpful. And it seems like that would be helping eBay as well, because they want to get the most money possible every time something like that sells, because they're getting a portion of it.
And just remember, you only have, I'm telling you, it's only like 24, maybe 48 hours. Because, for example, somebody had passed away a few years back, and their books were selling for like 200 to 300. And so I sold a lot of them, and then I ended up buying some of them for cheap on eBay and resold some of them, and thinking that I'd be able to sell more of them. And then I ended up with a couple other books that didn't sell. So you only have a limited amount of time. Hey, just wanted to share a Bolo here. Bolo from Daniel Bolo says Bolo Peak Design backpacks bought for $299, sold for $125 in 2 days. That could have been a hustle of the week. Maybe let us know. Shoot us an email and let us know the story behind that, and we'll throw it up on our hustle week. That's over from Facebook. Thanks for following us on Facebook. Appreciate that, Daniel. Okay. All right. I'm going to answer this a little bit, Mike. I know maybe I shouldn't, but is Rolando going to resell part-time, going to back to teach? Okay, so I'm not going back to teaching. Actually, I do teach homeschool right now, by the way. I've been saying that for a long time.
Well, and let's clarify, when the average person hears that you say you teach homeschool, they probably just assume that means that you're teaching your kids at home.
No, it's not. No. I have like 3 full classes of students that I teach once a week.
It's like a homeschool co-op, right?
Yeah. It's like, think about school, but once a week, and then I assign homework. So I've already been doing that. That's been a thing for years, but it was never a thing about like trying to make it so I could pay the bills. It's kind of like I enjoy teaching. I enjoy being in the classroom. As far as going part-time, I've always said reselling is a vehicle, right? It's a vehicle to your next destination. I don't know many people that resell until the end. Now, there may be some now, because how much things have changed, technology has changed, but I have no plans to currently go part-time reselling in the current year. But in the new year, there may be an opportunity. Well, I know there's an opportunity. I've already talked to all the parties involved, and it's going to happen. But when that happens, when I go full-time back to education and I go part-time to reselling, I'll make sure to let everyone know, because I want to keep it real. But again, I've always loved reselling, but I got to tell you, my greater calling has been to be in education. And I had my 7 years of sabbatical, I guess you would call it. And eventually there will be a time where I go full-time. But when that happens, I will make sure to let you know.
Well, and the other thing to remember too is there's a difference between full-time, part-time, and solo or only income, right? Your sole source of income. So you could still, a lot of people are full-time resellers, in my opinion, and they also have another full-time job, right? Like you can work. I mean, a lot of full-time resellers aren't putting in 40 hours a week. Some are putting in way more than that, but some it's their only income, and they're really only putting in like maybe 25 hours of work a week, like legitimate hours of actual work. And so they're technically a full-time reseller. It's not the number of hours, but it may be their only income. Now they may be able to get another job. Maybe it's a full-time job, maybe it's another part-time job, but still be making the same amount on reselling. So even when you go back into education more years down the road, or a year down the road, whenever that happens, you potentially still could be selling just as much on eBay as you are now, or bringing in the same amount of profit.
So that'd be great. Yeah. No, and I agree with that. And the funny thing is I'll never forget this past summer, I was at an administrators conference, and they may be watching, but I remember somebody approached me and they said, "Hey, Rolando, I never thought I'd see you at one of these conferences again." And I said, I don't know who you are. And I've shared this story before. And they're like, "Oh, I listen to a podcast. I'm a head of school, but I also sell on eBay." And I was like, wow, that was pretty fascinating to me. So anyways, I'll let you guys know the podcast is not going anywhere. I love reselling. I love, going out there sourcing. I love finding treasure. I love flipping them, and I love sharing what we do so others don't make the mistakes that we do, and to motivate and inspire others. So that will continue happening. All right,
All
at
right,
the show. Oh,
we got a question here. So one of our questions says, do you guys have any suggestions on different things I can try to get more sales? I'm keeping my fingers crossed for Q4. Obviously, there's all the normal tips, right? There's all the things as far as make sure you're listing consistently, maybe try a niche that you're not familiar with and learn a new niche so you can boost your sales. But one thing that we kind of came up in our last podcast and a previous live was the idea of not only uh, end and sell similar for your items, but end and sell similar at least 12 hours after you end the listing. So, and it makes sense to me because what you're doing, in my mind at least, is you're giving the system time to refresh. Because if you just end and sell similar, when that system does the refresh, if you've kept everything the same, you've kept the listing title the same, you've kept your pricing, most of the stuff the same, it, even though technically it starts back over at zero, it's still in the system in the same way. Whereas if it refreshes, it runs through its course, the algorithm, whatever, it does its web search thing, and your item is not there. And then the next time it does that search again, it is there. Then it seems more like a brand new listing. So it does make sense to me. It's almost like clearing your cache, right, on your computer. That is a way that Orlando's been trying and seems to have some promising returns. Is give a little bit of time after you end and sell similar.
yeah, and the other, I want to add one more thing. Where's that come and go? I want to address the person. Oh, Bailey Banks. Okay, the other item I want to address here is make sure you accept pretty much every offer that comes your way, especially in Q4. Like eBay, there's no official letter. This is all speculation, but I think it's speculation over the last decade of reselling is that eBay likes activity, and especially they like conversion, right? They don't like to hold things onto their servers for years on end. If you got items that are selling, the best time to sell it is Q4. So make sure you accept those offers that hopefully will trigger other sales. All right. At the show, Vids asked us if we have participated in eBay live sale. How did that go? And I would say no, we haven't. And we actually addressed that in our episode on Wednesday. The reason being is that eBay has not opened eBay Live to, I would say, normal everyday sellers. They've opened up to celebrities, they've opened up to collectible warehouses, but as of right now, it's just not a thing. They did mention at eBay Open that they're opening it up to apparel, that they are opening it up to other categories. But as far as like for me and you and everybody else, it has not. Now, have I watched one? Yeah, I've watched one, and I think it's great. I think the setup is actually easier than Whatnot because all you have to do is pull your pictures from your listing, and it's ready to go. And when it sells, it's so much smoother than Whatnot, but it's just not open to all of us, and that's the unfortunate thing.
Well,
All right. I want to hear Nightshade Jelly says, I'm working 40 plus my day job and close to 20 hours on my eBay. Definitely a grind, but I love it. Yeah, that is, I would say that is the sweet spot. If you want to be part-time, like I remember those days where you can work 40 hours, and if you're able to get 20 hours, you can potentially make full-time money on 20 hours.
yeah.
All depends on what you're sourcing and everything, but there is kind of a sweet spot where you can be full-time without working full-time.
Yeah, and that's the thing too is I just think of even a normal 9 to 5 job. Most people in a 9 to 5 job, they're not working 40 hours a week. Like if they were to actually itemize every second that they spent on task working versus the in between stuff, or they're kind of walking to and fro, or they're eating food, or they're using the restroom, and then the time that they're spending working on TikTok or Instagram reels, or they're kind of just zoning out or chatting with the person next to them and not actually like working. Most people aren't putting in 40 hours a week. And I think the same thing is true for reselling. I think there are people who resell and legitimately are working 60, 70-hour weeks, and they're like grinding. Like they're doing the live on Whatnot.
Why not? Yeah.
They're constantly sourcing, they're streaming their sourcing, they're they're listing like crazy, they're nonstop. But the reality is, a lot of people making full-time money on eBay, they go to garage sales, they go to thrift stores maybe every day, but they're probably not spending 8 hours a day at thrift stores and listing and shipping. Maybe they're only putting in 5 or 6. So you just have to remember that you don't necessarily have to have reselling as your only income in order to be considered a full-time reseller, in my opinion.
Okay. No, I agree. I agree. All right. Real quick, one more question was, I guess it wasn't just about eBay Live, but it's also if I've ever done, no, not that one. There was one about if I've done a site-wide percentage sale. Yes, I run a site-wide percentage sale all the time, all the time. And the reason being is I truly believe it helps push you up higher in the algorithm. Again, I have there, no one knows, okay, no one has answers. Even eBay does not have answers. I've had eBay reps even tell me they don't know, what the algorithm does. But my thoughts are on that are that the reality is that people are looking for a deal, and if people can see something and they see that it's 50% off, 40, 30% off, eBay has said anything over 15% off does have an effect. That is directly from eBay. That was at the last eBay ads event. So there is a possibility that, hey, if you were in a sale, chances are you're going to be higher in the search and it's worth it to you. All right, taking a look at some other comments. Let's see. Clay's Closet says,
Yeah, he's got a good thread here. So he's talking
okay.
about having a friend of his who was working, him and his friend, both teachers working and doing other things while teaching. That's one thing a lot of people don't realize is teachers often pick up other jobs, other things like coaching and other things like that. But then he has a good point here. So he says, once the thing that hit in 2020, they sent a lot of the teachers home for that rest of that school year. And so a lot of it says he really started cranking out the hours because most of the stuff they're just putting online, so you can kind of put up virtual stuff, and it freed up a lot of time. And I think that's one of the reason why. And again, we have to be realistic. Like when we look back to 2020, there was reselling boomed, and there were a lot of reasons, right? Like there was all the stipends people were getting, or the stimulus checks rather. People were getting stimulus checks. Unemployment. A lot of people are on unemployment, and we're actually getting decent money on unemployment. Not to say any of that was good and that was a good thing for them, because it was terrible for some people losing jobs, but there was a lot of extra income being pumped into and money being pumped into the system. So that is one aspect. But the other thing too is a lot of people did have free time on their hands. So again, they might have realized like, hey, I was listing way more items and sourcing more actually in 2020. So it's hard to compare numbers today to the 2020 timeline if you're not actually putting in the same kind of hours, because you are busier. You've got all the normal things that weren't happening during those 2020 lockdowns.
Oh, we got a hey, Rise and Grind Picker. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, I don't know if Q4 is hyped. We'll have to wait and see. All I can do is hope. I have to list. They said they think Q4 is overhyped this year. My response to that is, hey, let's just make sure that we are listing and doing what we can and expecting for it to be a great Q4. Because if we kind of go like, yeah, it may not be that great and we don't, and then it does, you're gonna wish you did. So it's better just to do it. Incredibly random. That's a name right there. How's it going? Says, I price my things a little bit below comps. You think it would be better for me to price at the higher rate, but then run a sale in my store?
I think option 3. For me, the third option would be to list it at comp or slightly higher and run a higher ad, because eBay is going to get a higher percentage of that, right? So if you run a sale, that might help
higher sale or a higher promoted ad?
Promoted ad. So really? Because eBay is going to get a higher percentage. I mean, you got to think about it like eBay wants to make the money, right? And so if you just run a sale on your item or you list your item low, it might sell because it's getting eyes on it, because you might be the most competitively priced for that item. But if you up that a little bit and basically say, eBay, I'm going to give you an extra 10% on this item, and you're basically making the same amount. In my opinion, I think you're going to sell more with a slightly higher ad percentage rate than running a sale, because I think that which one is going to put more money in eBay's pocket? That's what it comes down to me.
Well, so let me provide a little different perspective. And the little different perspective is, one, if you're not doing promoted listings, I would not start doing promoted listings unless you're willing to do it and never go back. because it is it in my experience and many other resellers that once they went promoted and they got off promoted, it tanked their sales and it took forever to rebuild their store. So don't do that. The other side is um eBay is like mixed on that one, right? I've heard what Mike has said before. I've heard that one. I've also heard the eBay also say that like, hey, if you know, because some people are like, hey, instead of making my item 20% off, I'm gonna put 20% promotional ads. And eBay is like, whoa, 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 like, yeah, that's not gonna help you anymore, right? Generally, it's on the lower numbers that it helps. So I would say do what's best. I always make the argument that being the lowest price is not going to guarantee the sale. I think what was better to focus on is the pictures, your return policy, um, your make sure best offer is on, sending offers, you being a top rated seller, you having great feedback. Those things are more important than having the lowest price. You should still be competitive. You shouldn't be the top. And I wouldn't say you should even be, more than the middle, but you need to be somewhere competitive. But also realize that you have a cost to your items and you don't want to put yourself that you're always selling stuff and you're barely making any margin on that. I hope that made sense. All right, hey,
right.
we're gonna go live maybe for like 2 more minutes if anybody has any questions. Mike, are you a little hesitant about Q4?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm hesitant for a lot of reasons.
Okay.
I still think it's going to be better than other times of this year, right? Because
Okay.
people are
Yes.
still going to buy. I think Christmas is still going to be a thing. I think people are still going to be buying items and gifts, and money is going to be spent. But comparing it again, it's hard because it's not apples to apples. Like, what are we comparing it to? Like last year, maybe it might be somewhat similar, but you can't compare it to like 2020, right? Because
Yeah.
it's just we live in a different time. The situation, the environmental situation of our culture and all, it's just so different. So I think we're gonna do better during Q4 than we did in Q1 and Q2 and Q3 this year, but I don't think it's gonna be as high as previous Q4s. That's just my opinion on that.
Okay. Okay. All right. We'll go with one last question here. No, this is from Bailey Banks again. Another question says, "What are your thoughts on cross listing? I would love to try more, but it seems time consuming." Thoughts? Okay, so I would say you first need to be really good at one platform. Don't start cross posting until you understand one platform. I strongly suggest that platform be eBay, because once you can figure out eBay, all the other ones are really easy. The interface on eBay is a little more difficult. There's a lot more choices. Where like Poshmark, Depop, and all that, they restrict those choices. They kind of tell you this is the way it's supposed to be. The other component is even though we are sponsored by Vendu, we do have our own code, Pure Hustle, and I think it gives you like 25% off the first month. You can check out our links below. um, I do encourage Vendu, regardless if we were sponsored or not, and the reason being, it makes it easier. I know there are some people that try to cross list without using a program, but it requires a lot of work. It requires a lot of follow up and tracking. Where like systems like Vendu, Vendu has a lot of great tools. Vendu allows you to cross post to pretty much almost every platform. Not only that, if you have older listings, it allows you to do AI background removal on those older listings before you make them go live. And you can even make it like so it fixes things for eBay. It will automatically list those items to the multiple platforms, and when the item sells, it will also delist them. And it's very smooth, very easy. There's not a huge learning curve. So that's where I am on that. I know there are other platforms out there, but I have found Vendu to be really useful. The easiest one, and I'll throw this out there because I need to go check and see what's going on, is Bonanza. I don't know if you guys have heard about Bonanza, but Bonanza is a platform where you can eBay all your import. You can import
eBay all your imports.
I know you can eBay all your imports. You can import all your eBay listings for free, and it'll be on another platform. But that doesn't mean you're gonna get consistent sales from that platform. But that one is zero effort. So check out Bonanza. It is Bonanza Marketplace. There's zero effort. We're not sponsored by them. We don't get anything from them. But I will say during Q4, I do get some nice high dollar sales from Bonanza. So I would definitely check it out. All you have to do is Google Bonanza Marketplace. import eBay listings, and it'll give you all the directions. It should be pretty easy. Hey everyone, before we go, make sure to smash that like button. Thank you to everyone that joined us for our live Monday episode, whatever. You know what I'm saying. It's been a long day. It's been a long day. So with that being said, appreciate everyone. Love all you guys. Make sure to be real,
Be relevant,
and be reselling. Lates.
Peace.
Sun's out, it's a brand new day. With our eyes on the prize, we're on our way. Hitting garage sales before the crowd, searching for treasures, making us proud. Through the aisles of thrift stores we roam, finding pieces of history, bringing them home. From old books to watches, we see their worth, turning dust into gold for all it's worth. We're the hunters in the early morn, diving deep into the